Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. WNYC, the municipal radio broadcasting station of the city of New York, operated by the Department of Plant and Structures under the supervision of its commissioner, the Honorable Albert Goldman. We broadcast at a frequency of 570 kilocycles, the equivalent of 526 meters by authority of the Federal Radio Commission at Washington, D.C. This is Bert Dixon. Good morning. We give you the correct time. At the stroke of the gong, it will be exactly 1 minute past 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This service comes to you through the courtesy of Western Union. The aviation weather report comes to us from the Air Service Division, Police Department, City of New York. Received at 10:30 this morning, location North Beach. General remarks, scattered clouds, ceiling unlimited, visibility 10 miles, wind direction north-northwest, wind velocity 21 miles per hour, temperature 37 degrees, barometer reading 30.36. General weather conditions. Eastern New York, partly cloudy and slightly colder today, fair tomorrow. New Jersey, partly cloudy and slightly colder today, fair tomorrow. New England, partly cloudy and slightly colder today, fair tomorrow. Western New York, cloudy today with little change in temperature, partly cloudy tomorrow. Pressure continues low in the vicinity of Belle Isle, and the Gulf disturbance is moving eastward, being central off the southwest Florida coast, with lowest pressure about 29.90 inches. An area of high pressure covers the southern plain states and the middle and upper Mississippi Valley, and pressure is high over the northern plateau region. During the last 24 hours, rains have occurred in the Gulf and North Pacific states and at scattered points in the South Atlantic states. Colder weather has overspread the Middle Atlantic and South Atlantic and East Gulf states. The outlook is for rain tomorrow in the South Atlantic states. Elsewhere, the weather will be mostly fair tomorrow, and that is today and tomorrow. It will be colder tomorrow in the Atlantic states. WNYC, New York. Radio station WNYC in the general public interest issues the following announcement at the request of the Post Office with regard to Christmas mails. During the holiday time, the volume of mail increases approximately 200%. It is a physical impossibility to handle this great mass of mail efficiently and promptly within a few days. Therefore, to assure delivery of Christmas presents, cards, and letters before Christmas Day, the public should shop and mail early. Mail Christmas gifts, greetings, and letters at least a week or 10 days before Christmas, according to distance. There will be no carrier deliveries on Christmas Day. Parcels and envelopes may be marked. Do not open until Christmas. This morning we deal with the climax of evolution. What has been termed the climax of evolution? The extinct saber-toothed tiger and the super lions which once roamed what is now termed California. Who discovered traces of these animals and where was the discovery made? Dr. John Campbell Merriam. His name is Dr. John Campbell Merriam, president of the Carnegie Institute of Washington, made the discovery at Ranch La Brea near Los Angeles. How did he arrive at his conclusions? He arrived at his conclusions through the reconstruction of the bones of some 1,500 members of the cat family. How is the saber-toothed tiger described? He was about the size of the present-day tiger, but his body was closer to the ground. He had powerful forequarters, but slender hindquarters, a development that marked him as primarily a fighter, a predatory beast. He had saber-like teeth which with serrated edges. It is thought his teeth were a foot long in many cases. That's quite a tooth. How is the saber-tooth? Oh, we beg your pardon. Or was this animal agile? He could move his head and mouth quickly, but his hindquarters were not built in such a way as to afford speedy movement. He could not run away. How did he attack? He would draw back his head and drop his lower jaw, which moved through a wide arc. Then, when he closed his jaw, the long teeth functioned like stabbing weapons. Why the serrated edges of his teeth? The sawtooth edges of his teeth made it possible for the tiger to rip and tear apart his victim. Has any other animal been so developed? Many have been known to have had long, saber-like teeth, but none have the complete, coordinated development which characterized the saber-toothed tiger. What other animals were contemporary with this tiger? A giant lion known as Felix atrox and Tremoxeres, or short-faced bears which had powerful jaws and teeth, but were as agile and nimble as the cats. Do any animals of that period survive? A puma, quite similar to the modern puma, and a wildcat, almost identical with the wildcat now found in California, are supposed to have lived in the age of the saber-toothed tiger. Possibly some of you may object to the pronunciation of the word puma. If that is the case, then let's say puma. This concludes the Library in Miniature, broadcast through the courtesy and cooperation of the New York American.
Soup chicken, 22 to 23 per pound. Vegetables, onion, 5 cents per pound. Yellow turnip, 3 pounds for 10 cents. Carrots, 7 to 10 cents per bunch. Cauliflower, 15 to 25 per head. Cabbage, 4 to 6 cents per pound. String beans, 10 to 12 cents per pound. Brussels sprouts, 15 to 20 cents per quart. Cranberries, 2 pounds, 19 to 25 cents. Artichokes, 8 to 12 cents each. Fruit, eating apples, 25 to 35 per dozen. Bananas, 20 to 25 per dozen. Table grapes, 10 to 12 cents per pound. Pineapples, 15 to 20 cents each. Honeydew melons, 7 to 10 cents per pound. Dairy products, tub butter, 37 to 39 per pound. Print butter, 37 to 42. Fancy tub butter, 39 to 42. The two largest distributors of milk in the city of New York have announced a reduction in price of milk. Grade A to be 15 per quart, grade B 12 cents per quart delivered. Thank you until tomorrow morning at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. Ladies and gentlemen, you have listened to the report on the daily retail food prices given you by Mr. Arthur J. Salmon of the Bureau of Home Economics, Department of Public Markets. conclude the first period of music. And now, to conclude the first period of music, Theodore Whitman, the violinist of the Marston Whitman Trio, offers the composition of MacDowell as arranged by Hartmann, To a Wild Rose. Concluded the first period of music presented this morning by the Marston Whitman Trio. John Marston, flutist, Clara Marston, pianist, and Theodore Whitman, violinist. They will be heard again at 11:35 this morning. The New York Tuberculosis and Health Association affords us the pleasure of presenting Mrs. Marie W. Anderson, director, or rather campaign director, for the sale of Christmas seals, who will speak to you on the subject, Making the Wheels Go Round. Mrs. Anderson.
Good morning. That stagecoach wheels are the kind I want to talk about. And then I hope you'll not mind if I just go round and round a little without the wheel and say something about my latest hobby. A hobby has been defined as a subject you talk about as long as your dearest friend will listen to you. But this hobby of mine has been popular with others beside myself the past few weeks. It is hunting old stagecoaches. I wish I knew whether any of my listeners remembered the later days of stagecoach travel. It must have been rather leisurely and pleasant compared with the rushing motors and trains of today. It was far less comfortable and expeditious for long journeys, but there must have been a thrill about following a lively double team of horses urged on by horn and cracking whip, which cannot be experienced by racing along the highway as we do nowadays in a honking motor bus. Many of the old inns scattered through New York State still retain the atmosphere of old-fashioned hospitality common in the days when the stagecoach passengers alighted regularly at their doors. Special interest in these relics of older days has been aroused this year because of the design of the 1931 Christmas seal. It is a coach in full swing with a jolly party aboard. These little Christmas seals, which are sold all over this country from Thanksgiving to Christmas, by the National Tuberculosis Association and sold through its 2,084 state and local associations. If you would like a new hobby, you might see how many different seals you have on your old letters and Christmas cards. 25 seals have been issued, and many stamp collectors treasure the full series, although the health stickers are not really postage stamps. They should be used only on the backs of letters and packages. But many persons believe that it takes a Christmas seal to make a Christmas mail. The Coach design was selected for this year's Christmas seal because it was the 25th anniversary of its sale. This old-fashioned reminds us that in the good old days, even 25 years ago, as little was generally known about the cause and prevention of tuberculosis, then known as our modern medical practice. Quite a few died of that disease. The first seal was sold as still die needlessly from tuberculosis. Seals must be sold this year and next, and for another 25 years if necessary. This is another hobby of mine, fighting tuberculosis, and we must get back to seals. A friend of ours is making a solving the seal, and we gladly listen to all he has time to tell us about his hobby. You can make models, pots, carriages, including a most delightful miniature of the Christmas seal season. He tells us the first seals ever used were rollers cut from logs. Solid wooden disc wheels are still used. The Egyptians had wheels, but they, followed by the Greeks, seem to have... And the adaptation of the wheel to modern needs is a story all by itself. Did you know a bicycle wheel is built like a cantilever bridge? But I'd better stop with stagecoach wheels, which are fairly modern compared with Egyptian chariot wheels. Thinking of the 1931 design of a little health seal, which really suggested stagecoach wheels, it seems a splendid idea to bring out some of the old coaches from seclusion in backyards and old carriage sheds and drive them over some of the old post roads to emphasize the message of the Christmas seal in the eyes and hearts of passers-by. But when we found some of these old vehicles, some with fascinating histories, we found it another matter to make their stiff old wheels turn round. And the most talented garage mechanic was quite unfamiliar with coach wheel repairs. As to horses, there didn't seem to be two teams of horses that would do for a coach and four in any one county of the state of New York. And when horses were located, how about harness? And how many drivers were available? And if we could provide no means of pulling the coach along, and if the old wheels wouldn't turn anyway, how could the ancient stage go anywhere, let alone along the roads now traveled so fiercely by many modern other wheels going round and round? So the old coach carries a message to us even in its decrepitude. It reminds us that united effort is needed to accomplish any great cause, such as the fight against tuberculosis. Pulling must be done, and is done by the Tuberculosis and Health Organization in this city and throughout the state of New York and throughout the country. But nothing can be accomplished unless the wheels move freely and steadily. The health work carried on by Christmas seals must not be allowed to halt or falter just because its axle bends beneath the load. Every seal purchased and used this year, and this is why I'm especially interested in wheels going round, must make all the wheels go round in the aid of the sick, the protection of youth, and the prevention of needless suffering from tuberculosis. Remember that this disease is not hereditary. It is preventable and curable if taken in time. If you would like to take up any of these hobbies I've talked about, you can inquire about old seals or request information about tuberculosis when you buy your Christmas seals. But if you should know of anyone who is ridden by stagecoach, wouldn't you let me know personally? Mrs. Anderson, in care of this station and the Christmas seal stagecoach. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes you have been listening to Mrs. Marie W. Anderson, Campaign Director for the sale of Christmas seals, New York Tuberculosis and Health Association. This is WNYC, New York. Once again, we wish to announce to the radio audience an item pertinent to the mailing of Christmas packages. Therefore, to assure delivery of Christmas presents, cards, and letters before Christmas Day, the public should shop and mail early. Mail Christmas gifts, greetings, and letters at least a week or 10 days before Christmas, according to distance. There will be no carrier deliveries on Christmas Day. Parcels and envelopes may be marked, quote, "Do not open until Christmas," unquote. The Jewish Welfare Board affords us the opportunity of presenting Mrs. Frances D. Pollock, who is chairman of the Department of Vocational Guidance of the National Council of Jewish Women, who is an ardent and enthusiastic worker in the educational and social service field, nationally as well as locally. She is a member of the board of the National Consumers League, a member of the board of the Vocational Service for Juniors, and is a member of the Teachers Union Auxiliary. As chairman of the Department of Vocational Guidance, Mrs. Pollock has been active in doing educational work among the 215 local branches of this national organization by working out a program of vocational guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Frances D. Pollock.
The Children's Charter states that every child shall have an education which, through the discovery and development of his individual abilities, prepares him for life, and through training and vocational guidance, prepares him for a living, which shall yield him the maximum of satisfaction. Vocational guidance must then take into account the differences that exist between one child and another in his taste, his abilities, his family background, and his ambitions. One aim, therefore, of vocational guidance is the conservation of the resources of each child. People are alive everywhere to the great need of conserving our natural resources, our oil, our coal, and our timber. Few of them have given thought to the still greater need of the conservation of human resources. The special abilities and instinctive drives of young people, their native gifts and capacities, must not be lost, but must be given opportunity for development in carefully chosen occupations. Boys and girls must be thoughtfully guided into work which will make the best out of their special aptitudes. Salvaging human material after months or years of maladjustment is not properly meeting the problem. Adequate guidance must be given in time if we are really to conserve human energy. In colonial days, when our country was agricultural, luckily everyone must make his living. And to make his living, he must go outside his home into this tremendously specialized modern industrial world. Think of the boy and girl looking out on the towering factories and skyscraping offices of this big city and saying, "Where is the job for me?" How shall we then discover the special aptitudes of the child and find him his place in industry? The schools, of course, furnish us our laboratories. Each child should be studied in school, and careful record kept of his achievements, his tastes, his health. Tests should be made to discover his special abilities, and facts relating to his family and his social history should be understood. It is vocational guidance that will give him a knowledge of occupations and the requirements that special industries and jobs demand. The counselor is the expert who has a comprehensive understanding of industrial conditions and industrial opportunities and who must interpret these to the child as the child leaves the world of the school and faces a wholly unknown world of work. It is vocational guidance that must stand this gap, that must be the bridge between the world of the school and the great world of industry. And it is the counselor who must be the guide into this huge, complex, overwhelming world of industry of this 20th century. But today, it is not only the child out of school that is struggling to find his place in the vast industrial system. It is the older boy and girl and the adult. When there are no jobs, even for adults, the boy and girl must be kept in school. If he leaves to hunt a job, he walks the streets, seeking for what does not exist, or he wastes his time swinging his legs in employment offices. Stay-in-school drives have been successful in keeping children in school. And because children of continuation school age are remaining in full-time school, the continuation schools throughout the country have many fewer students than in normal times. In several cities in this state, notably Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, Niagara Falls, and New York City, these temporarily rather empty continuation schools are being used for emergency unit training courses for the unemployed. Part of the building and part of the staff are assigned to this work. In this way, hundreds of young men and women are using their enforced leisure time profitably, securing training and retraining. If the continuation schools throughout the country could be used in this way, and if the untrained and inadequately trained could be fitted for more highly skilled jobs, our vocational problems of the future would be greatly reduced in number. In a recent visit through the Middle West, where there is also great unemployment, the field secretary of the Vocational Guidance Department suggested that the basement of a new school be turned into a recreation and reading room, and that lectures be given to men and women out of work on any subject in which they manifested an interest. It was light and airy and well fitted for the purpose. The superintendent of schools and the principal gladly adopted the suggestion and added that if sufficient interest was shown, they would turn over their well-equipped shops for training and for further training of these men and women. School for further education by means of a grant of a scholarship, say of $3 a week. This is a small sum, but often sufficient to make up the difference in the family income. At all times, scholarships are needed to keep in school the promising boy and girl who, for his own sake and the sake of society, should be given a chance to develop to his greatest capacity. But at this time of suffering and unemployment, scholarships become a real necessity. If we are to prevent many of the able boys and girls of today becoming a waste, and if we are to conserve our human resources. Let me tell you a story which illustrates the great value of such a scholarship given at a time of crisis. Esther's father was a rabbi. There were 8 children in the family. The income was exceedingly small, and as a result, Esther was advised that as she was now 14 years of age and was through the 8th grade, she would have to go to work. This news quite broke the child's heart. She was fond of school and wanted more than anything else to continue. As a last measure, she went to the telephone book to see if she could find help and looked under the word children. There she found the name Children's Aid Society. She wrote a letter to them, confiding her cherished hopes, and asked if there were anything they or anyone else could do to help her solve her problem to stay in school. The letter was turned over to a scholarship committee. When she was tested, the child was found to have a very high intelligence quotient. It was found, too, that she was enrolled in a straight commercial course, which did not seem to give her a broad enough training. They offered the child a scholarship and suggested that she transfer to a general course. She did. It was not long after that Esther was writing the society enthusiastic letters about the beauties that had been opened to her through her English literature. Her aims in life had now been enlarged. She graduated with honors, has been granted a scholarship and is now in her 3rd grade at a well-known city college. We must, you see, keep the child in school to assure him the greatest possible chance to develop his abilities. But at the same time, we must have different kinds of schools to meet the different kinds of abilities. The aim of our schools originally was to fit the boys and girls for college, and the college was to fit the boy and girl for the learned profession. The system was for the book-minded, the academic-minded. Now we must enlarge our opportunities for the children who love handwork, who want to become skilled workers in various trades. Vocational guidance is concerned with raising the age at which a child shall leave school. But if we force the child to remain in school, we must give the child a particular training that will fit him for the kind of work he is able to do. So, with the necessity of keeping vast numbers of boys and girls in school, comes the obligation of having the schools meet more adequately than they do today the various needs of the children who wish to become skilled workers. To do this, we must have more workshops, more trade schools.